This is a panel discussion, Building Successful Careers in Research and Beyond. I'm very delighted and excited and happy that we have an excellent panel. And we'd like to learn a lot from them and their experiences. And I thought that this conversation is a wonderful opportunity for the gathering here. I will now introduce our panelists and also invite them to come to the podium. The first panelist is Professor Debasish Ghose. I have a very brief bio of him. Of course, we will have a full introduction to his profile on Friday morning, but let me still a very brief bio of his. He's been a pioneering researcher in autonomous systems, swarm intelligence, and cooperative control. He earned his BSc Engineering in Electrical Engineering from NIT Rourkela in 1982, completed his Masters and PhD from ISc in 1984 and 1990. He's been a faculty member at ISc since 1990. He founded GCDSL and MRL labs, shaping India's research in guidance, motion planning, and multi-agent systems. He has authored more than 500 publications, mentored 57 PhDs. He's a fellow of Indian National Science Academy, Indian National Academy of Engineering, and National Academy of Sciences, India. I would request Professor Ghose to please take a seat. I would now like to introduce Professor Y. Narahari. Professor Narahari is an honorary professor at the Department of Computer Science and Automation at ISc. He has had several leadership positions: Director, Center of Brain Research from 22 to 23, Dean of Division of EECS, Electrical, Electronics and Computer Sciences, 2014 to 2021, Chair, Department of Computer Science and Automation, 2010 to 2014. He has worked on game theory, mechanism design, and artificial intelligence. Applied to research problems at the interface of computer science and economics. He is also exploring AI applications for social good, especially in digital agriculture. He is the author of textbook titled Game Theory and Mechanism Design, brought out by the ISC Press and the World Scientific Publishing Company. He has advised 29 PhD students, of whom 11 are currently faculty members in IITs. His honors include Fellowship of IEEE, Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Sciences India, Homi Bhabha Fellowship, J.C. Bose National Fellowship, ISC Award for Research in Research Excellence in Engineering, ISC Distinguished Alumnus Award, and Sir M. Vishweshraya Lifetime Achievement Award for Senior Scientists. Thank you, Professor Narahari, for agreeing to our request to join. Please take a seat. I would like to now briefly introduce our third panelist, Dr. Anand Lakshmanan. Dr. Anand Lakshmanan, a senior member of IEEE and fellow of IETE, is a strategic leader with technical and management expertise in the areas of telecommunications, computing, and related technologies. Dr. Anand has a doctorate in engineering from the Department of Aerospace, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, where he worked on load balancing algorithms in distributed systems. Later, he got his MBA Finance and postgraduate certification from IIM Ahmedabad in Leadership Excellence. Dr. Anand has traveled and collaborated with teams in the United States, Europe, and the APAC regions on engineering of innovative product lines to market-specific goals and being a part of the customer success stories across geographies and adaptation to multi-site cultures. Since 2016, Dr. Anand has been involved in designing and delivering courses as an adjunct professor at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Design and Manufacturing, IIITDM, Kanchipuram, and a visiting professor 2022 to 2024 at Amrita School of Computing, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. He was associated with L&T EdTech in designing and creating technical content for online learning from 2020 to 2022. He is currently a senior project advisor at the Center of Excellence for Advanced Automotive Research at IIT Madras, a position he has held since August 2024, where he leads research initiatives in Internet of Things, software design vehicles. Yes, and he's also a mentor for Bannari Amman Institute of Technology, Satya Mangalam for Innovations and Entrepreneurship. Thank you, Dr. Anand. Please join us. Okay, now I'll move to the other place and we'll start. So this conversation that we are going to have is very informal. At the very outset, I would like to say that defining what is success in research and what are things that it takes is a very subjective topic. The questions in their construct itself are subjective. So this is in no way an exercise to conclude at 5 points that everyone should follow, have a red book in their bag every day. But nevertheless, it's an exciting opportunity. Nevertheless, it's an exciting opportunity for our audience to learn from the eminent panelists about their journey and what they think were the reasons or factors of the success, and what advice or suggestions they would like to give to the younger researchers. We have so many of them in this room. They would like to learn from you and hopefully conquer new challenges and boundaries. So I have written down some points and I will start with that. So the idea is that for first about 30 to 40 minutes, we'll go by that. Then we'll open the floor for questions, and about in an hour's time we'll wind up the discussion. Let me note down the time. Okay, 5. So to start with, I would like to ask all three of you, what initially drew you to a career in research, and were there any defining moments or decisions or persons who influenced your path to take up research? Just a quick starter.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yes, okay. So when I first came to ISC, I did not have research on my mind. I come from a very small engineering colleges where there were hardly anybody who did any kind of research. But when I stepped into ISC, I found that this is research is given more importance than teaching. And I also realized slowly over the months that this is actually a very good thing, because teaching has to be exciting. It cannot be just something that is confined to textbooks. So this is where I came across many people who had labs, students, and they were working on things that we do not actually read in our textbooks. So in the final, because this was a 2 years course that we had, just like now, the last semester was a project semester, and I went around asking people, professors, whether they would accept me as a research student or not. And I came across Professor U.R. Prasad, who had just come back from Cranfield at that time. And I asked him if he would accept me as a research student. And he actually, he was a very nice person, as a complete gentleman, who spoke so nicely and softly to me, explained to me what his expectations are, and then he gave me a list of papers and said, please read this. So there are about 25 papers in that, all of them in the top controls journals those days, and all of them was completely incomprehensible to me. But that did not stop me, because I had such a good mentor. So I took Professor Prasad's help, started reading those papers, and I realized that there's a whole new exciting world waiting out there that goes far beyond what I have learned in my ME coursework. That is what hooked me to research. The second factor that did that is the campus of ISC itself. I do not know about you, but those days, if you come from a small town like Rourkela, where I came from, this campus casts a spell of its own on you. And I was completely mesmerized by the atmosphere, environment, and the people here. So when I finished my master's, I thought that I'm not going to join any company. I did give interviews, I did get a job, but I decided I'm not going anywhere. So I joined as a research associate here for a project. And then next year I joined as a research student. And I have never regretted it. It is something that, of course, research goes through ups and downs. There are ups and there are also downs. The downs can be terrible, because that's the point when you feel that nothing is happening and nothing is ever going to happen. But that is never the case. There will be an up soon. I had a wonderful mentor and I had good friends here. So as I learned more and more, I realized that there is so much more to be done in research than you can learn by just reading books. So that was my exposure to the area of game theory and advanced control systems. So I completed my PhD here. Due to some luck, I also got a job in ISC. and I have never looked back. So if you ask me two things or two things that happened to me which pushed me towards this career, one is my PhD mentor, Professor U.R. Prasad, who was actually a professor in computer science department, and the second is ISC campus itself. So we will talk more about it, but let me give this to Professor Narahari.
Yes. Thanks, Professor Ghose. Professor Narahari.
Yeah, thank you, Ghosh. First of all, greetings to you and very warm congratulations on this wonderful event here. Many of you may not know that we were classmates in ME here. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. I think Ghosh mentioned one word, luck. I think luck played an extremely important role in my getting into a research career. I come from a BSc mathematics background. I did my BSc mathematics in National College, Gauri Bidnoor. And then at that time, believe me or not, I did not know about the existence of IITs and IISc. I was in final year BSc. My dream was to complete my BSc, come to Central College, Bangalore, do my MSc mathematics, and then go back to Gauri Bidnoor College as mathematics lecturer. That was my dream. That was because the 3 mathematics lecturers that I had in BSc were absolutely top-notch. I wanted to end up as a lecturer there. Final year BSc, my brother got married, and the father-in-law of my brother had a son who had actually studied in IISc. So in one of the conversations, he asked me, what are you going to do next? I said, I will go to Central College, do my MSc mathematics, and then come back to Gauri Bidnoor as lecturer. Then he said, do you know that, you can do MSc mathematics in an institute called IIT Madras, right? I said, I don't know about IIT Madras. Then he said, there is also another option for you, Indian Institute of Science. It's called Tata Institute in Bangalore, where also you can join and do a BE program here. So then, this was sometime in January 1979, when most of you were not born. And then what happened was I wrote the entrance exams for both IIT Madras and IISc. Again, as Debasish said, luck. I got into both the institutes, right? MSc Mathematics in IIT Madras and BE ECE department. And then the only criterion on which I decided was, from Gauri Bidnoor, Chennai is much farther away than Bangalore. So that was the only criterion that went into my deciding here. I came here, and then I joined IISc, did my BE here. So there is something very famous about IISc. It's very difficult to join IISc. But once you join IISc, it's very difficult to leave IISc also. So, because people would like to stay here for a very long time. So I stayed for BE. At the end of BE, I always wanted to do ME. And I was not sure whether I will get admission here, though I was a student here. So I did appear for an interview, and I got a job in Wipro Technologies, which was just starting up at that time. I still remember my HR interview actually was taken by Ajim Premji himself. This was in 1982. And then I got my ME seat here, joined for ME. My only aim was to remain in IISc. And then at the end of ME, I applied for PhD in computer science and automation. Again, I was not sure whether I'll get a seat or not. So I had to have one backup job. And ISRO was my dream job. I had got a job in ISRO, but I got a PhD seat in IISc, so I joined for PhD in IISc. I think this was in 1984 or so, and both of us graduated from ME at the same time. So I think luck plays a very important role, and I'm going to say later on that luck also can play a very important role in your research careers. Okay, that's all.
Thanks, Professor Narahari. Dr. Anand.
Hi. First thing, I would like to thank Professor Ashwini and the aerospace team to invite me and give me this opportunity to sit in this elite panel. Actually, very honestly, I don't really feel I belong to this group because of, Professor Narahari has been my teacher. I have attended his class. And of course, Ghosh is like literally everything. He was my guide, but besides, he actually made me a man. In whatever today I am, many of the practices that I have learned, it was learned from Ghosh, and he told me very often that what he has done, what he's been practicing was what U.R. Prasad taught him. So basically, And I had the very good fortune of interacting with UR Prasad also, which is very good. And I fully concur Ghos's view about UR Prasad, what he said. Now coming back to this question, I wonder if Professor Ashwini divined our backgrounds and brought us all together, because I find that both of them have spoken literally what I wanted to speak. Okay, maybe again, so you will be hearing the same story, but bear with me. Being the third, obviously has its disadvantage. So actually, I come from a BSc physics background, and like Professor Narahari said, I was not aware of IISc. I didn't know about the existence of IISc. Of course, being from Chennai, I knew IIT Madras. So after BSc, my aim, I was thinking that after BSc I'll do an MSc in IIT. That was my aim. But then towards the second or third year, or maybe second year, I think, towards the end of my second year of BSc, one of my professors told me that there is an institute in Bangalore which you must check out. It's a very, very good institute. You will do very well. I was actually a topper in the class, so professors generally used to encourage me on what more I could do and talk a little more about my career and things like that. So they spoke to me about it. Then I started inquiring and found out more about IISc. And those days, I think I was the first batch of when they converted the BE to ME integrated. I was the first batch when that transition happened. So again, like Professor Narahari, I went through the exam and I got admission in ME integrated in ECE again. And also I got admission in MSc in IIT Madras, so I had the choice. And well, maybe it was more driven about the thing about my passion to be more of an engineer or whatever. I don't know what exactly drove me, but maybe to be out of home and be someone independent, I don't know. But anyway, ECE was my passion. Actually, when I applied also, many people were saying that why did I apply for ECE instead of computer science? But I was actually very much interested in electronics during my physics days. Then I came over here, I joined, and I had no intention of doing a PhD. But as Narahari aptly said, it is difficult to enter, but once you enter, you will always look for opportunity to stay on. And that's exactly what happened in my case also. ME Integrated is a 4-year course. 4 years, I really had a wonderful time. I enjoyed the campus. More than the campus, I enjoyed the atmosphere, the kind of, it's a blend of the academia on one side and also the kind of, the freshness and the thing that what Ghosh talked about, basically about the research. Wherever you see, it's not, you don't see engineering in a form of engineering, but it is more of research. That is what we see here, which I don't, now that I'm in IIT and I have experienced IIT, I can tell you, it's a world of difference that exists. So that probably kind of kindled me that thing that, okay, I should do something which I can continue to stay on in IISc. But after ME, actually, I had an option of, in fact, I wanted to work in signal processing in ECE. I had spoken to Professor Reddy. I went to Professor V.U. Reddy, who was the chairman at that time. He said he was going to go on a sabbatical for a year or something, so he was not going to take students. So then I said, no, I will not, because I was very particular. If I work in signal processing, I wanted to work with him. He was one of the top professors who have worked in that area in that time. So then I went and joined the industry. I worked in TCS. While in TCS, but my mind was always looking at what I can do to go back to IISc. And then I came to Bangalore once to meet Professor Ghosh. So then by then Bharadwaj, the first student, he had joined with Ghosh. He and me he was my immediate senior in ECE. So he told me about what he was doing here, and then he said, why don't you come and meet him? Then I came and met him, what he told about Professor UR Prasad. Ghosh said the same thing. He just said, these are the areas I'm working in, and this is what you can do. And well, if you're interested, you can try. My aim was I wanted to work in something which will involve optimization theory and linear algebra. So these were the two topics which I was very much interested in. I wanted to do something related to that. And he said that's something that he also was working in. So I said, okay, makes it a good thing. So then I applied, went through the interview process, and I got in. So I joined on 1st of January 1993. And yeah, ever since I think I've had no regrets. Basically, if I were to just recall my entire academic life and post-academic life also, I would say that 3 years that I spent on my PhD, 93 January to 96 February, was probably literally my golden period. I mean, not just because, I mean, the kind of relationship we had with Ghosh and all those things, it was just amazing, okay? I will probably, when I get a chance, I would definitely talk about it. I think you all heard Bharadwaj also spell out some of his experiences. And Bharadwaj and me were very close friends, and we, 4 of us, like Professor Ghosh, Mani, Bharadwaj and myself, we were always together. In fact, we got to know Professor Narahari more by meeting him on the coffee boards. All the 4 of us will be there, and he will also, when he comes for coffee, we used to interact, and that way we got introduced to him even before I attended his course. So I think that period was actually where there was a lot of learnings and plenty of, it was an openness. It was absolutely open. Everything under the sky we had access to. We could just go, we could attend. I remember attending lectures in the mathematical department, hardcore mathematics on real analysis and things like that. Half of it will just be going over my head. Then after the lecture is over, I will ask him about it, and he will explain to me what was the gist of the lecture. I mean, both of us, we used to attend together. Like all of us used to go together and we will attend. So there was so much of learning, so much to learn during that period that I think literally that's what I would say, which literally drove me to research. And one fundamental thing which worked very well in my favor was my family supported me. When I told my parents that I wanted to do PhD, I didn't tell them that I wanted to do PhD because I can stay on in IISc longer. Just told them that I wanted to do it, and they said fine. They agreed, though they were hoping that I will get into a job and so soon they can get me married and all those stuff. Typical parental thoughts were probably in their minds, but they said that okay, since I was interested, I should go ahead with it. Yeah.
Thanks. By the way, I would like to say that the idea of this panel discussion actually came because of, so I had shared an email last year with all past the GCDSL MRL group, and it was Dr. Anand who suggested me that we should also talk about some of these aspects of mentoring students and all that. So that's where the idea came from. So thanks to you for initiating this. I would now like to move to an important point, which is about mentorship. Now together, I mean, there's so many, we heard from so many people in the technical sessions, and we'll also hear from them tomorrow. So we see that a lot of people have come here, and through your mentorship, they have gone on and taken on the biggest of challenges. They are very eminent people all around the globe. They've sort of taken over the world, if I can say. So I would like to now sort of get some points from you about mentorship, its importance, and the role it plays in progression of a career. So Dr. Anand, maybe this time you are the first. So about mentorship and yeah, about approach to mentorship students. Yeah.
Okay. So apart from my various things that he described on what I do, one other hat that I wear is actually I'm also a mentor in a mentoring, career mentoring pan-India organization called DEA. So I do a lot of mentoring of people, very many of them usually are students. Of course, it's nothing like hearing from people who have actually done the mentoring like Professor Narahari and Debasish, but maybe I'll leave it to them to talk more about it. But I think basically, from my perspective, mentoring is, okay, in our Hindu tradition, there is a concept called guru system. Guru is somebody who actually kind of is a guide who actually shows us the way and also kind of guides us into that path. But the whole thing coming from what we do has to come from within. Now the mentor's role is pretty much that, where basically the passion is there, the passion should be aligned with our goal and we move towards it. So they tell us what is to be done. Now what is important here is actually the passion. And what is it that you want to do? Very often that is where I find the gap exists. We want to do something because we are driven by certain goal, which probably is not the right goal. Or we are driven by something that we want to do, but then we don't get it, but we end up doing something else. So that means we are moving away from the passion. So basically, the mentee is as important there because it is his passion, and the mentor there is actually again, as I said, I do look upon mentors as gurus, because guru means they are basically the people who literally we surrender to them and they are actually taking us forward because they know where we want to go, and it is a milestone driven. But there, again, there are certain things which is extremely important from a mentor perspective. They are people who actually have our welfare uppermost in their minds. So that's something which should be the driver there, not any other factor. So when these two kind of things come together, that is some relationship which probably will throw a spark, and probably all the, that's probably the thing that I eventually will be extremely successful. Maybe a little bit abstract, but
Thank you. Yeah, Professor Narahari, I was also at the event that your lab had organized last year. Maybe, not for the entire duration, but I could see all the wonderful things that your students have done after graduating from ISC, working with you. So how do you approach mentoring your own students and young researchers? And
I will be very brief. The students or the mentees are like plants which are growing in a garden, and the mentor or the professor is just a gardener. What does the gardener do? The gardener will go and look at the plant every day, and then put some water, will nurture the plant, will nourish the plant. That is all that is required. The plant will grow by itself. You don't have to interfere with its growth. I think that's extremely important. Every individual in this world has his own or her own talents. What the mentor will have to do is to, create an ecosystem where these talents will actually blossom in the best possible way. This is pretty much the approach that I have tried to follow. When you talk about a mentor and a mentee, I think a hierarchical relationship is not exactly optimal. So optimization expert is here. So I think the optimal thing to do will be to treat your mentee as your equal. And then when the student actually graduates, for example, let's say I have a PhD student, and when a PhD student actually completes and graduates, the PhD student should be knowing the topic on which he has worked or she has worked much better than you. I think that's the way it should be. You should be able to learn something from the student when the student actually completes the PhD. You should let the student sort of grow very independently, because at the end of a PhD, the student will have to guide his own or her own students. So I think we should never interfere with the creative aspect of the student. And where we can really help is, sometimes there are successes and failures. And where we can really help the mentees is how to handle successes and failures. Because, if you are in research career, publishing is very fundamental to research, right? And when you send a paper for publication, the most likely result is a rejection, right? The most likely result is not acceptance, especially if you're targeting some good prestigious venues, right? For example, I might have written some X papers, but for the X papers that have been published, 3X times the papers have been rejected. And for a professor, it's very easy to take the rejection in his stride. Whereas for the students, it will be their first paper or second paper or third paper. And where you can actually help the mentee is to handle success and failure. Failure is just like, getting feedback. Failure is like the fuel, whereas success is like, something which will inspire you to do higher things. So if the students or mentees are able to handle successes and failures, I think, you have done very good mentoring. That's all I would like to say.
Yeah. Can I just ask a very quick question? So yes, on the very interesting thing that you said, so how would you, specifically handle when let's say a very bright student early on, for them, as you said, this might be their first or second paper, right? So as professors, as you grow in your career, it may not affect you that much, but for a bright young student, a first or second paper means a lot. So if there is a rejection there, I mean, is there something specific? Of course, we got your point, but
Okay,
I
so
just
one
wanted
thing I have always tried to do is when the student is writing the first paper or second paper, spend maximum time with the student. Because if the student is writing the first paper, then there are so many ingredients for writing a paper. The ideas have to be good. Not only the ideas have to be good, but it has to be articulated, it has to be positioned in the best possible way. These are some things that a mentor should be able to teach the student. So first time I had a student by name Dinesh Garg. I would like to take the name Dinesh Garg, a very
know
bright
him.
student. He's now a big shot in IBM.
Yeah.
By the way, a teacher will be very happy when the student actually surpasses him. So I can say that several of my students have actually surpassed me, right? That is when a teacher actually becomes happiest. And Dinesh Garg, when he came into a computer science department with a mechanical engineering background, and he was very raw, and he would not even be able to speak a single sentence in English properly. But that raw talent was there. And then when we wrote the first paper, which actually has a very large number of citations, I still remember we spent a lot of time together. And every single suggestion that was given by me was taken by the student very seriously. So I think by spending more and more time with the student during the earlier stages of the career will go a long way. And preparing them for a rejection. So keep telling them that this paper is going to be rejected, right? So that they will be ready for the rejection, right? And then when the paper really gets accepted, right, the students will feel delighted. Right?
Thank you. So we have many early career researchers and middle career researchers here, so these things are very valuable. By the way, Dinesh, if I'm correct, when I joined ISC as a master's student, I think he was probably here, 2003, 4?
Yes, so
Around that
he joined me in 2004 as an MSc engineering student.
Right.
And completed his
So I
PhD
met
in
him
2010.
in front of library and had some, I mean, I
You
know
had
him
some
for
conversations with him.
Anyway, thank you. Professor Ghosh, I would like to start again with the mentorship, and specifics may follow, but I mean, we have seen so many stories and so many people have graduated working with you and done so well. So please tell us about mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini. I think just now you heard from Anand and Narahari about mentorship. I completely agree with everything that they have said. So what I'm going to say is just adding to it, assuming that I've already said what they have said. Okay? So there is one aspect of mentorship which I think is very important. That is, you must be a friend to your mentee. You know, Amartya Sen a few years ago wrote a book, and he mentions in that book that friendship is something that is very unappreciated in relationships. All sorts of relationships people talk about, but the role of friendship is often unappreciated, although it plays the most important part. I believe that a mentor-mentee relationship also benefits if the mentor is a friend to the mentee. A friend is somebody who doesn't judge. The friend only helps. In a mentor-mentee relationship, a mentor is a friend who has more experience. That's the only difference between the two. And the fact that you don't judge them also allows you to deal with different students differently. Not every student is equal. You cannot apply the same rules, the same ways of interaction with every student. It has to be student specific or mentee specific. This is very important. Once you have crossed this requirement, once you have done this, you will find that you will be able to help your mentee a lot, and in turn, as Narahari mentioned, a time will come when you will benefit from them, because they will teach you things that you do not know. And I have had this experience with lots of my students. I have faced this I have had students who have a lot of problem, like he says, Dinesh Garg, he could not write well and all those. I've had many students like that. Initially they could not write well, they could not express well, but it's just a matter of time and they learned everything. They surpassed me. They could express things much better than I do. So in that context, let me tell you an anecdote. I had a student, I will not tell you the name here. He wrote something and sent it to me. So I looked at it and I suspected that he has copied it from somewhere. It was so well written. So what I did is that I actually took pieces of their sentences from there and put it in Google Scholar to check if it exists somewhere, and I couldn't find anything. Those days there was no chat GPT or generative AI or anything like that. Then I called him and I said that I'm really sorry. I suspected that you had copied this from somewhere, but it is not so. You have written it yourself. He said, yes, I wrote it myself and I spent the whole night writing it properly. So I realized that my suspicion was not well founded. What I did was not correct. I should have trusted him. But you see, it gave me an immense pleasure to know that here is a student who has learned to write so well, express ideas so well. Incidentally, you are going to listen from him tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. So the plan was to go through some points. There are a few more, but I think mentorship and mentor-mentee aspects are, I think, the key takeaway as we had thought out. So if there are quick questions on mentorship, we can take that now. It's absolutely fine. Before we move on to, if anyone would like to ask any question, I can come down and regarding mentorship, yeah.
Good evening to the panelists. I had a question because I'm someone who is starting research as a new person to this field. So as a mentor, what would be your suggestion that if I'm starting, I have an idea, what should be my procedure to executing that idea in research step by step? Like any suggestions or tips which can help me to avoid mistakes which I might make.
Yeah. I think it's a very specific question, but if you have any tips, please go ahead.
Research is all about exploration, and you would have developed some intrinsic interest in some topics. And in research, you should also know that you should be willing to take some calculated risks. So nothing wrong in pursuing it, right? Fortunately, research now has become much easier. Maybe easier is not the correct word. It's actually being facilitated very well by the availability of some of these AI tools. I think what is extremely important for research is to be able to know what is the current state of the art on the topic. If you are clear about the broad topic or the broad area in which you want to work, right, you should be in total control of the current literature on the topic. And that part, right, in our days, the way we used to do was we used to have these airmail letters, and then we used to know who are the 10 best researchers in this area. And then we used to write these airmail letters, right, and then post them and wait for a month or two for papers to come from those researchers. And many of those researchers were so responsible. They used to send us the papers, and every day in the post office we'd be looking for new papers to come and so on. That's the way we were doing the literature review. I think that literature review part is extremely very, very important. When you do the review of the literature, then the kind of insights that you are going to get are going to be extremely important. That would be step number one for your research. And this step number one now has become very easy because of these AI tools. And then, of course, your mentor is there. The mentor also already has worked in this area and is going to come up with a brilliant problem for which you are supposed to find the solution. So work with the mentor and then keep doing things. But please remember that you should be willing to take some risks, right? And please also remember that during your PhD, you're definitely going to reach some dead ends, right? 6 months you do something, nothing would happen. Every paper that you send gets rejected, right? So that really shows that you're working, right? So that should be used as a fuel for you to keep pursuing either the topic or something else that you would like to do. Perseverance is extremely important, and being on top of the literature is also extremely important.
Thank you. Professor Ghosh, I have a quick follow-up, and then we'll move on. So as a PhD student progresses through the years, so do you have anything specific or like through these phases of a PhD student, early on, middle, and towards the end, how this whole thing is shaped? And would you like to say something about that as a mentor, as a supervisor?
Yeah, so a research student's career starts with, especially in ISC, when the student joins, he or she has to credit some courses. And while they are doing these courses, I mean, I'll just tell my side of the story. So what I do is that I also parallelly give them some papers to read depending on what their interests are. And I make it a point to meet them. So we have a weekly meeting schedule kind of thing where more experienced students make presentations of their work, and some of the new students also talk about the papers that they have read. And this way they get to know how research is presented after it is done. So it's something that is very important because they get to know the effort, result of effort that has gone on for several months or years done by somebody else. This is a very important phase. This is the learning phase where you learn about the work done by others. The second phase is when you start working on your own. This is where a research student needs a lot of support from the mentor or supervisor to select and start working on a problem, right? And this is where the student makes mistakes. You allow them to make mistakes. In fact, you said that, what can I do to avoid mistakes? Please do not. Do make mistakes. That is the best way to learn. So they make mistakes. They learn things which are not correct, but in the process of correcting those things, they become more mature. The third stage is where they start contributing on their own. And this is the place where their research really takes off. And if you really look at the career graph of a research student, somebody may take 4 years and someone may take 5 years. But ask them and they will tell you their main work was done in the space of just about 6 to 12 months' time. Everything before that was a preparation, and a few months after that is just putting it on paper. So this initial training period, the initial learning period is very important, after which they start contributing on their own. Of course, as Narahari explained, getting a rejection of your first paper is heartbreaking, right? But that is where your mentor plays a role. The mentor will give you the support you need to tell you that this is not the end of the road. It's just a feedback that you got from people who work in that area. So use that and go further ahead. And you will never fail.
Yeah, thank you. Now I wanted to touch upon the long-term motivation of building careers. I mean, you have had such illustrious careers. So do you, about maintaining resilience and having a long-term motivation or career planning, many of us are, many people in our audience are starting as young assistant professors and so on. So would you have any tips for them for planning for the horizon, or is that an important aspect? Would you like to say something on that, Professor Narahari?
I think the title of the panel is Building a Successful Research Career.
Building successful careers in research.
Research and beyond.
Beyond.
This word beyond was somewhat difficult to understand.
Yes.
And if you want to trouble the panelists, you will include words like beyond and so on. So anyway, I think building a successful career in research has several ingredients to it, I feel. For you to be, first of all, I think one has to qualify the word success itself. What is success? Is success academic excellence? Is one question that you can ask. Or academic excellence means publishing lots of papers and so on. Is success making an impact on the community or on the society? That could be another way of measuring success. Success also perhaps could be measured by financial prosperity, how financially prosperous you are. Success probably subjectively can also mean maybe intellectual satisfaction. You get intellectually satisfied, right? That could be success. Or success could be any convex combination of these, right? Where the probabilities of the combination, right, will sum up to 1, but you can fix those probabilities. I feel that you should not borrow definitions of success, but fix those probabilities yourself. For example, if you're one of those pure academics, right, who wants to be very creative and who wants to ask difficult research questions and find fantastic solutions for those questions with probability 1, right, academic excellence, right? Whereas, depending on the person, right, different students, different persons will have different, focus on some of these success factors. So I think you should first decide for yourself what success means for you. Don't worry about the rest of the world, right? I think that's the first thing. Having said that, I think the several ingredients will be that for a research career, both the depth and breadth are important, right? Depth is extremely important. For example, when you are doing a PhD, right, you are supposed to go very deep into a particular topic, and you're supposed to become a master of that particular topic, right? That should be definitely there. At the same time, breadth is also important, because breadth will allow you the flexibility to explore other things, and it will also make you more interdisciplinary and so on. That's also extremely important for you. So you have to have a mixed strategy between depth and breadth, right? Without compromising on the depth part of it. This is the first aspect. I think the second aspect would be, again, as I already said earlier, how to handle a success and failure. You should be very clear, right? That failures are a part of the journey, or a part of the research journey. In fact, they're an inevitable part of the research journey. And every failure, I can give you an example of one of my papers, right, which probably got rejected maximum number of times, 6 times. 7th time, the paper got accepted, and now it is one of the highest cited papers of mine, right? So you should know that failure does not mean very much, right? And you can actually get excellent feedback when a paper gets rejected. You should be able to, sort of manage this success and failure in a very nice way. This is the second ingredient. The third ingredient is, you should always look for impact of the work. There are 2 words. One is impact, another is impact factor, right? You should not be looking for impact factor, right? In fact, the definition of impact factor itself is flawed. Go back and look at the definition. So you should be looking at impact. This impact could be, right? It need not be always societal impact. It could be impact on the society, but it could be impact on the research ecosystem itself, on the research problem that you are doing. For example, if there is an open problem for the last 30, 40 years, and you're able to solve this open problem with the very serious research, then you have actually created an impact. And the community, the research community will like it, right? There are many other points. I think when you are building a research career, it's very important to work on problems that the community is interested in. See, you may be an expert on a particular topic, but the topic may not be very current. The topic may not be of too much of relevance in the current context, and the topic may not be liked by the community, right? So I think when you choose your research problems, when you choose your research questions, ensure that the problem is relevant, and the problem is something that the research community is looking forward for a solution to that problem. I think choice of the research problems is also very important. And then the final point I would like to mention is that, when doing research, don't get too much obsessed only with research, because pretty soon, you'll have to build your life, right? You have to achieve that work-life balance. How you are going to do it, you have to think about it, right? You have to achieve that balance between your research and also your family. This is in the future tense for many of you, but it's a very important thing. But the thing to note here is that, okay, let me summarize by saying that research is not like a sprint, and it's also not like a big marathon or something like that. And the research process is more like a beautiful trek that you are going to make in the journey that you have undertaken. Right? That's all I would say.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I just have one point to add. I think he summarized it beautifully, and particularly I like the last point on the trick. One of the very key things which I strongly believe is that we always need to ensure that we don't get stuck into our comfort zone. So very often what happens is when we start working on a problem, and then that leads to another problem, then we get 2-3 problems, and then we are actually working on that, and we get kind of an expertise in an area. We should immediately recognize that and look at what we can do to actually break out of that. Otherwise, what will happen is, I've seen very many cases where after a period, they start just looking at tweaking some parameter here, tweaking something else, and publishing a paper. Their focus is more on getting numbers, and the progress that they make on research starts tapering off. So I think that comfort zone is something. It's not just about people who are continue to be in research. Even those who do go into the industry or wherever you are, your learning has to you ensure that your learning is continuing all through your career and beyond. Oh, I'm using that word beyond. So even after you think you are going to retire, or when you want to see that there is still a lot of learnings that's going to happen. Okay, so learnings is something that you should always start looking. If learning is stopping, that means something is going wrong in your career and in your life.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, Professor Narahari, I must admit that when I thought about this panel discussion, I just quickly thought about a title. It was very shallow, but the way your last few comments, I think many of these points are already covered, and it's wonderful. So I'm so happy, and we are so satisfied because we got so much valuable inputs from you on all these aspects. Professor Ghosh, would you like to add something on that?
Ashwini talked about planning. That is, do we really plan for research?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can. You must be a very great visionary to actually plan your research. Research is not something that is a series of waypoints that you already know about. For example, if you had asked me in 1995, what would I be doing in 2000? I think I would just take what I'm doing in 95 and extrapolated it and said that maybe that's what I would do. In truth, in 2000, I was doing something else. Same way. Every 5 years, you'll find that you have changed tracks. At least I have changed tracks. So this planning is always a short-term planning in research. It's never a long-term planning. A question that obviously comes up here is that why do I change tracks? So there are several reasons. One of the reasons I change tracks is when I get a student who is very passionate about something. For example, around 2003 or 2004, a student joined me. He was very interested in doing robotics. To the extent he actually carried some robots that he had made. This is way back in 2003, by the way. He had made in high school, he carried those with him and brought here and said, I want to work on robotics, I want to work on a problem, there should be robots. I have never done any experimental work before that, and I realized that this person is very passionate, and it would be a crime if I tried to draw him away from this and put him into doing something else. So I gave him that opportunity, and this mobile robotics lab came out because of that student's work. His name is Krishnanand. I remember that when we were building these mobile robots, there was nothing available as a mobile robot in India. So we went to the SJ Park. I don't know how many of you know about it or not. This is where all sorts of electronic stuff are sold. And we purchased old computer drives from there, took out the motors from there, and with that Krishnanand built the robots. These were the first mobile robots that were built, I think, anywhere in India, I would say. And they were all made from these cannibalized parts. So what I want to say is that that actually gave rise to a lot of robotic work that happened in my lab subsequently. So I think this is the kind of thing that makes you change track and do something because someone else influenced your thoughts. I think all of us, those who are young faculty, those who have been in this academic research for a long time would agree with me that often your research is influenced by your students, influenced by external factors, influenced by the industries that you interact with, because they pose very realistic problems to you. Problems that you would not like to solve because they do not fall into the nice set of equations that you are familiar with. You have to come out of that and look at a problem that you have never looked before. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to add one thing. Ghosh just now mentioned what kind of a research problems that you should be working on. I think he raised the issue of it should be of use to the industry. For example, industry may be actually posing very interesting problems to work on, which, as he said, may not fall into the framework of the equations that you already know. Extremely important. You have to take that calculated risk. And in a department like aerospace, for example, ISRO, right? There will be so many different problems that ISRO is working on. I have generally found that if I want to decide whether the research problem I'm currently working on is a good research problem, what I have many times done is to go to the house and over the dinner talk to my better half, in fact my much better half, who does not know much about science and so on, and try to explain that research problem to her. If she understands that problem and she appreciates that problem, then I know that this is a good research problem to work on. So I think that will be an index. See, in IISc you have a wonderful opportunity. Please don't talk to only people in Professor Ghosh's lab. Please go out and talk to people in other labs in aerospace department. Don't confine yourself to only aerospace department. Come to our beautiful computer science and automation department and talk to my students who are currently working on agriculture, right? There may be some very, very interesting problems that you may be able to solve. I think, and pick up conversations with your friends in the hostel and pick up conversations with your friends in the mess. This is where the real research problems actually will get formulated. And I think this will go a long way in making the research problems more interesting.
A piece of advice that Professor Narahari gave you, and most probably you missed, is that please get married.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'll touch upon the beyond part, what I thought of it. So it's mostly about translational research and the changing ecosystem, the industry academia connect. So the startups and so on and so forth. So I would like to like you to comment on that. It's a very subjective topic because it depends on the research area, its utility in the industry and so on and so forth. But foundational vis-a-vis translational research, how do you look at it, and industry connect, how relevant is that? So if you'd like to say something on that.
Okay, so let me start.
Yes, please.
Because that's something that I'm currently doing, so maybe it's more apt that I start the thing. So basically, I believe that actually both research, fundamental research or focused research, and translational research, both are extremely important. We cannot say that one is more important or superior to the other. So what really happens is, in fact, in India currently, what is the situation? Particularly me coming from the automotive background, at least not background, but at least in the last year, I've been focusing on automotives and on translational research in automotive area. See, one of the things what we found was basically that there are plenty of focused research happening in automotives in the country today, with IISc having centers which are focused on areas related to automotive industry. You have IIT working on plenty of things in the mechanical department, engineering design, and so on. So there are a lot of things that's happening. But what the industry is unable to do is take these things and immediately translate it into something which is a product-ready technology so that they can go and implement it. Technology is, though companies claim to have R&D, what they believe, what they call as R&D is more of adopting that technology and into their ecosystem and productifying it. But the technology should be ready. And this research that's happening in all these institutes get published as papers. And there are institutions abroad in the West, like particularly in Europe and some parts of the US, where they have these kind of institutes which actually take these papers and do the translation into technology and feed it to the industry, and that comes back to us 10 years later as technology. We import that technology, and when we go to them to import the technology, they are giving us only 10 years old technology. And that's going to be very expensive. So we felt that there is that gap that needs to be bridged, and some center or some organization needs to focus on this. So that was actually the birth of this Center of Excellence for Advanced Automotive Research that we are working on, where we try to take these things, look at industry problems, and then break that industry problems slice them into narrow focus areas, and get that done by the institutes. Because there the focused research is happening, and that, for a very simple example, when we look at battery, one of the most hot things today is in the EV thing is the battery. So much research a lot of people are talking about research in battery. But then when you look at battery, you will have certain labs which are working on some of the very, very specific materials that go into the battery. maybe the material that's going into the anode or the cathode. Somebody is focusing only on the electrolytes. And you need somebody to actually put them all together, then put them into a pack, create a battery pack, and then you are also looking at the thermals and so many other things, the vibrations, the NVH and other aspects that the battery has to withstand. Now, all these things are specializations which are done by different labs. But you need somebody who can actually tie them all together. So that is as important. And if we need that research also in the country, and that is where we are not really there where the West is. Otherwise, in quality of focused research, I don't think we can say that we are in any way inferior to what's happening in the West. That's my strong belief.
Yeah. Thank you. Professor Narahari, would you like to say something about translational research and industry connect?
Yes, I think translational research is extremely important in the current context. For example, if you have seen the Anusandhan NRF call for proposals, ANRF is the agency which actually gives out projects to faculty members all over the country. The call for proposals very, very specifically says that we would like to have interdisciplinary proposals and collaborative proposals involving multiple principal investigators and even multiple institutions and so on. And they also would like to encourage translational research. Having said that, I think my own take on that is that you have to strike a lovely balance between your strong points. See, every researcher or every faculty members will have his own or her own strong points, and very important. And that is where you are likely to contribute at a very high quality. And then at the same time, you should also have an eye on translational research, industry-oriented research, working on problems of societal relevance, and so on. But you have to decide what that balance has to be. To give my own example, in the last 4 years, I have actually spent a fair amount of time working on something that I never wanted to get into, but I got into through a sheer accident. That is applying game theory and AI to digital agriculture. Little did I imagine that I will be working in this area, but I got into it because I met the Deputy Managing Director of NABARD, who at the end of a 1-hour conversation convinced me that I should be writing a proposal, and then I got a project sanctioned. So I was forced to work on that problem. But now, after 4 years, I find that there is so much that one can do in the area of digital agriculture itself, using AI, game theory, and so on. And even the students are getting attracted to some of these projects. But then I want to be very careful because my expertise is in some traditional areas. I will not leave those areas, right? Those areas are also important because that is where I will be able to contribute fairly deeply, right? At the same time, spend enough time on the new thing that I'm doing. This is how I think you'll have to do. You have to, lovely balance is very important.
Thank you. Professor Ghosh, would you like to add to it?
Yeah, thank you. So I think both Narahari and Anand have talked about industry connect. So my only advice would be that never lose an opportunity to connect with the industry. You will often, this is for the young faculty here, you will often have people who would say that we would like to visit your lab. Our first reaction is that, what would they do in my lab? They are not doing what I am interested in. But never miss that opportunity. If somebody from the industry wants to visit your lab, please let them do so. Explain to them what your lab is doing. Try to find out what they are doing, and you will see that there would be connects. There are things that you could do by just changing your focus a little bit. There are thought processes that you can start in the industry group that they have never thought of because of what you have learned with your research. And these connects are becoming increasingly important nowadays. Narahari spoke about funding. As time goes by, you will realize that government funding will become less and less with time. You will have to go for private funding, private industry funding, and this is where this kind of connects and this kind of taking up problems of interest to industries will help a lot. And funding is important because they help you to build up your lab, pay scholarships to your students, have higher research officers for your lab. So these are very important things that you need to propagate research work.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the conversation is so engaging that we have overshot the time. I think we'll now move to any questions from the audience, and yeah, of course, we can continue the conversation after the session also. So, any questions, points related to the broad paradigm of building successful research careers and beyond?
It was very interesting to listen to all the discussions. So it was more towards this mentee and mentor. So I would like to ask, we often have this thing like whether we define the problem to a PhD student or they find the gap and come out. So somewhere in between, but some inputs from yours, from you would be helpful.
I'll give a very brief answer to the question. I will let the student decide the problem himself or herself. Only if the student is not able to come up with an interesting problem, then only I will get into discussing any problem with you.
Okay, thank you.
If they are given enough freedom, they will certainly come up with fantastic research problems.
Thank you.
When they come up with a research problem, do comment on how good or how solid the idea is and so on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just would like to share my experience, the way I started my PhD. Okay, when I joined, he gave me a couple of broad areas that I could work on. But it took me a long time to actually zero down on a problem. But during that phase, though it was a lot of struggle, but it was actually really a discovery phase. Now looking back, in fact, I remember very well, of my 3 years of PhD, 1 year, 8 months was spent on actually problem identification. And once that is done, then it was like just a zoom. In fact, I think both of them talked about it, how it's like, because you spend most of your time in problem identification, happened in my case. But during that time, like I would come up with, like what he just asked that question, there are plenty of ideas that will come to our mind, but some of the ideas may work, some may not work. But it is, as an individual, I have to learn how to identify the ones that will work, how to identify the ones that will not work, or what should I do to realize or make that decision. So I think that's where Debasish, he played a fantastic thing where he used to guide me. In fact, we worked together. And then suddenly one fine day, I thought we had developed a beautiful problem with game theoretic framework. And I don't know if you remember, sir. Suddenly one day he called me and he said, hey, just drop that game theoretic framework. Look at how your problem stands. I was completely gone. Like I felt like literally the world has fallen on my head, because sky has fallen on my head, because whole thing I was thinking that it was going to be a game theoretic framework was going to be my final PhD. But then a couple of days later, that very problem actually became my complete thesis in a few days. So basically that kind of twists and turns that it takes was a lot of a revelation to me as a student. So I really enjoyed that. Now looking back, I should say that I enjoyed it and I learnt a lot from it. Sir, you want to
No, thank you. I think what they have said is right, and I agree with Narahari that as a guide, our job is to define the broad parameters of a problem, but not the exact problem. That the student has to come up with, and the student will come up with this problem and take ownership. That is very important, right? Making mistakes and recovering from them is a part of the research journey. But the student should feel that I came up with this problem and I suggested a solution for it. That is very important.
Thank you. There is a question here. Yes, please.
Very good evening, and thank you so much for providing us the mentoring. So I have a question. Like right now I'm in my final year graduation, and I just wanted to ask that how can I head my journey towards being a research scholar, also with a follow-up question that not just limited to the research, also looking forward being an innovator and also to the entrepreneur journey after the research papers. Thank you.
So if I got the question right, you're in your final year of research. You're now confused whether you want to go into the academic line or you want to get into a startup. Okay, so one can always do that. So yeah, you should view you're a PhD student.
You're an undergrad right now? BTech? BCS final? BCA?
Oh, you're a BCA.
Huh.
You're a BCA. Okay. So you're in the final year BCA. You're okay. So now, what's the you have worked on a project where there is an idea that you want to translate. Yeah, I think you should get in touch with people who might be able to, suggest to you ways and means by which you can do that, right? Maybe if you can send us the idea as an email or something like that, we'll be happy to go through and then give you some advice, right? Through email itself. Right? It'll be difficult for us to say right away, right? It's not a bad. So what you have in mind is not a bad idea, in my view, right? Maybe the idea is a brilliant one, and you want to translate that idea into a product or software, right? So do send an email to us, right? We'll be happy to go through and then come back to you. Is that a
Thank
fair
you.
answer?
Yes, there is a question there. Okay, I have to go back.
So my question is to Professor Narahari. So you talked about independence that should be there with the researcher when they're working with you. Yeah. So you talked about independence that you like to give to your students. But then what is your approach when your students fall into a period of lull where not a lot of progress is happening? How do you?
See, I'm always with the student. I'm always behind the student, right? And see, the objective of a PhD program is to make the PhD student at the end of graduation as an independent researcher. At the end of PhD, you should be able to advise your own PhD students, right? So if you want to impart that independence to the student, there's a process, that, for example, Anand also described, right? So he took 1 year, 8 months, right? And that's a very, very useful process, because that is where you will look at the literature, you will find out what's the current state of the art, you will look at where are the gaps in the literature, and what are some of the interesting problems to work on, and how do you position your work, and so on. That's a very interesting process that every student must undergo. And I feel that during the PhD program, the student must get into depression at several points of time, right? And should come out of the depression, the advisor will play an extremely important role in making the student come out of it. Advisor must be completely will be like a shadow to the student. And if a complete dead end is reached, that is where the advisor has to play a very critical role in ensuring that the student will come back to the mainstream.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll take 2 more questions, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Yes, sir. So you said work-life balance should be there when you're a research scholar, like in any, let's say generally. So what were the problems you faced when you were doing PhD? I want all 3 of your opinions, and it'll be helpful if you could explain your day by day, how would it go?
See, during my PhD, I did not have work-life balance problem because I got married only after PhD, right? So that's one thing. But after PhD, when I became a faculty member, I think one of the things I did was to spend enough time, right? See, on any given day, there'll be so many problems that you will be looking at. And if you want to solve all the problems and then sleep, it is impossible. It's impossible. So at some point, you have to stop. Right, and this is where you have to be very systematic. At 8 p.m., I will stop everything and not worry about research and so on, so that you will get enough quality time to spend with your family. It's extremely important. It's not easy to practice, right? But I know that Professor Ghose spends quality time with his family, and I have also spent quality time with my family. In fact, I consider my better half as a hidden author in all my publications. I may have written 200 papers. There is one hidden author there, namely Padma Shri, though she is not listed there, right? I can end with a small anecdote that happened. Many of my students know that I call my better half as a hidden author, right? So last year I went to IIT Roper, where this student is there. Her name is Shweta Jain. She's a faculty member there. She has already told all her students that Professor Narahari, in all Professor Narahari's publications, he says that his better half is also a hidden author. So I have written a book on game theory, and I gave a talk on game theory in IIT Roper, and at the end of which some 5 students came to me with copies of my book, and they wanted me to sign. They wanted me to sign, autograph that book. And then I autographed these 5 books. Then promptly, my wife also was there in IIT Roper. So promptly they went to my better half, Padma Shri. They stood in a queue. Madam, you have to also sign. She said, why should I sign? This book is written by Professor Narahari. Madam, we have heard that you are a hidden author. You must sign. So I think work-life balance is not easy to achieve, but you have to work towards it, and you have to plan for it.
I would like to add one thing. This is from my own personal experience. When I started off this discussion itself in that introduction, I told you how much of an influence that Debasish had been in my life. So this is another thing which he taught us. Me and Bharadwaj, both of us, he used to be very, very particular. He was someone who would always maintain that 9 to 6 time in the lab. He would always be there at 9 o'clock sharp, and at 6 he will wind up whatever he's doing. And he used to actually recommend that we follow the same thing. And after dinner, we wouldn't know what to do, so we will go to the lab, and sometimes he will come to the lab to pick some paper or something, some book or something. And when he sees us in the lab, he will ask us, what are we doing there? Why are you there in the lab? Please go, you do something else. Don't always keep working on the work. Now, that kind of a thought actually, we started following it. So I started adopting an 8 to 6 kind of a thing. I was very strict about it, 8 to 6, Monday to Saturday. Sunday I will not do any work. And many people have wondered that whether working like this, is it normally PhD means people will work late night and do a lot of things, and I'm telling something which is exactly the opposite. But then the productivity is at your maximum when you are actually working in this kind of a systematic manner. If you realize that, you will actually start adopting this very quickly. And I adopted this not only for my PhD, post my PhD, right through my career, when it is known that IT industry and all the communications industry, people work long hours and all those stuff, I never worked. I have never worked beyond 6:30. There might be probably days that I can count with my fingers on where I have worked till 9:30, not beyond. Okay, so, but then how did I achieve it? It is basically that systematic work, and during that time, my mind is completely there and it's extremely productive. So that if you can do, you will automatically start having that work-life balance, because after going back home, his rule is that I should not do anything related to my PhD. So I would have to necessarily do something else. And he also taught me a lot of other things. He actually created that interest in books. He made me read a lot of books. So I started getting into the habit of buying a book every month and started reading books. So those kind of things, it's always good to have. Even if you're not married, please develop that, because once you get married, you have that time that you don't need to struggle to find that time.
Thank you. Just one comment that for students, many of you are not married, so you don't really have a family to that extent. But it's important for you to have a hobby, which is something that you not nurture on the side. Like Anand mentioned, that I like reading, so literature is my hobby. So I read a lot of literature and all that. So my work-life balance before I got married is basically spending time with books, which have nothing to do with technical things. Even now, if I come to my house, and you're all invited, I have a huge library in my house. I'll give you a prize if you find one single technical book there. I don't have them there. So I have my own set of books that I do. I don't advise that you should do the same, but please pick up a hobby. It could be music, it could be sports, it could be something else. But do that seriously, enjoy that, enjoy the company of your friends, and you will see that that is how you do a work-life balance. An anecdote, just like Narahari said, a very personal one. There was a time when I went into depression, and he said that it is a must. Okay, so I fulfilled that. Nothing was happening. My game theory wasn't playing out. I'm not converging to the stable equilibrium. I'm in a bad shape. So I went to the library, I picked up random books from there, and I discovered this set of poems by T.S. Eliot, and I started reading them. And every afternoon I would go and read from his different types of wasteland, proof of poems, then his drama, the poetic drama, and so on. And I read many other things there. They calmed me quite a bit. They did not teach me anything about game theory and how to get to an equilibrium point or something like that, but they created equilibrium in my life. I became more balanced in the way I approached my research problem. I was more philosophic, and then in the process I could do many things. So my advice is, please have hobbies and pursue them when you are doing a PhD.
If not, then we can continue the conversation after this. Let's thank our panelists for this wonderful inputs that you've given.